started here in just another minute or two as people kind of file in. Just a quick reminder, today we will be recording the session and it'll be available later on this afternoon on our website, ltcillinois.org/events/webinars. I'll also put that link in the chat once we get started and right before we end, so that way you have it, but we will have the recording available to you a little bit later. So we'll get started here in another minute or so after some more people join in. And while you're waiting, we do have a couple bell ringer questions up on the screen. So if you don't mind jumping into chat and throwing your answers, make sure that in the two you switch it from panelists to everyone, so that way all of us can see where you're from and what you're doing. Otherwise, if it's just at panelists, it gets sent to the four of us. But if you set it to everyone, then everybody can see who you are, where you're from, and also see your questions. One question that usually comes up, I wanted to make sure I mentioned before we officially kick off. Professional development hours, you will receive, normally our webinars are about 45 minutes, but today we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive for an hour and a half. So after completion, those of you who are participating in the live webinar will receive 1.5 hour PD credit. Those will be issued and sent out to you tomorrow morning. So you can check your email for those and you'll receive those for attending live. So make sure you keep an eye on that so you can get your 1.5 hour PD credit. So.
It's awesome seeing all these different districts and schools coming in.
Yeah, thank you for sending that into the chat. Just another reminder for those of you just now joining, please switch over the two who you're sending the chats to from panelists to everyone, so that way we can all see who you are and where you're from, and that way we can also see your questions if you ask them later on during the session. We'll go ahead and get started now so we can get going with the learning today. I want to say thank you all for joining us and welcome to the LTC EdTech webinar series. My name is Brian Bates. I'm the Director of Professional Learning with the LTC. I'm joined today by a couple people from Everfi, some wonderful resources here for you for helping your students during the time of remote learning, and they're fantastic resources for you. So I hope that you learn a lot from them and that you take advantage and reach out to them for more support beyond here. As I mentioned at the very beginning, this webinar is being recorded. The recording will be available on our website a little bit later on, and I'll put that in the chat here shortly. We're also offering an 1.5 hour PD credit. You'll get those tomorrow. Thank you for joining us, and we'll make sure that you get those right away. And then lastly, if you will have any questions during the session today, please make sure that you ask them in the chat. Noah, Jim, and Rachel will all be kind of taking turns presenting and monitoring chat. So they'll make sure that any questions you have get answered before we go. And one last thing, I know I keep saying last thing, but one last thing, make sure that you switch it from panelists to everyone so we can see what you're saying down there in the chat. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Noah, Jim, and Rachel from Everfi to go ahead and introduce themselves and kick this off.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. I'm Noah Doppel, and it's great to be with you all today. Just want to echo Brian because I was confused about that first part. Upon joining, the kind of automatic 2 in the bottom right is all panelists. So switch it over to all panelists and attendees so that it goes to everybody instead of just us. So yeah. Happy to be with you today. I've been at Everfi for about 4 years. I'm originally from Evanston, Illinois. So I was just telling Brian, I have been supporting kind of schools in my local area for about 4 years, and I didn't even know my school district number until about 2 weeks ago, the school district that I attended. So just yeah, excited to be with you all.
Yeah, I just also want to say thanks to Brian for helping us kick this off and hosting us today. Super excited to be here. We did an administrator webinar recently, so we're excited to do a little bit of a deeper dive into more of the course content for this session today. My name's Jim Sandher. I've been with Everfi for about 3 years. Also former educator in Chicago, and also former educational technology researcher out of DePaul University. So that's kind of how I found my place at Everfi. And yes, Dale, if you want some Everfi swag, as you can imagine, we are sitting on a lot of it because we have not been into a school or a conference in a long time. At the end, we're going to send out a quick survey. If you want to, in one of the answer fields there, we didn't have a field for that, but remind us that you're looking for some swag. I have a lot of stuff that we can send your way. So definitely let us know. If anyone wants like stickers or Everfi pens, or we're going to talk a little bit about like online safety, since we're on a webinar today. Also, some of our courses cover that. We even have like webcam covers and things like that. So unfortunately, we're all out of hats. We only have one for each of us. And as you can see, it's a big part of our aesthetic today. So we can't give you one of our hats. I don't know if that's kosher during COVID anyway. But I've taken up too long on my intro now, so I'll pass it over to Rachel.
Hey everyone, so glad to be with you today. I am Rachel Henry. I'm a schools manager actually based in Iowa City, but I get to work, I'm close enough to Illinois that I get to work with some of the school districts on the western side, as well as all of the schools across the state of Iowa. So I've already had a chance to work with some educators from Illinois over the last 4 to 6 weeks, and so it's been really great to work with you all. I've been a part of Everfi for almost 2 years now. I'm a former high school math teacher down in Texas, where I grew up. And then again, like I said, based in Iowa City. And so glad to be with you today. And just to kind of like segue us, I was reading rather some of the comments about one of the positive things that you think has come from remote learning. And there were some really good ones in here. Will said it has taught students to be more independent, which we know is what we're always looking for. Dale had mentioned that he had learned to use more Google Chrome extensions. So I love to see those positive notes, because there is always something to learn, even though it is, 2020 has not been the year any of us expected. But hopefully you'll leave this session. I'm just really excited to kind of dig into the Everfi resources that will hopefully help you in those remote learning situations. Or if you're not remote learning right now, maybe your in-person learning can help with the blended classroom, as well as if there is a chance you were to go to remote, you would have these tools in your back pocket. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump to the next slide. And this is just your roadmap for today. We're going to give you a really quick overview of who Everfi is, not just maybe some of our financial literacy resources that you've seen, but kind of everything we have across the board, which is really exciting. And Jim's going to dive into our Future Smart course demo, where you're actually going to see a course in action live, what a student would see. And then we're going to highlight some Everfi bundles. We have this fall, we're going to have like over 25 courses. It's a little overwhelming, and we're going to simplify that for you by producing these bundles that will sort of bundle like elementary, early learning tools, high school financial literacy tools, so that we've done that hard work for you. You'll also spend the bulk of your time just getting into your Everfi account. If you already have one set up, we're going to just reintroduce that to you, as well as show you some new tips and tricks. And if you haven't gotten one set up, you'll be able to do that on this webinar. And then we'll conclude that with just our remote learning best practices and how this all ties together, and then really get you excited about the new programs we have launching this fall, and of course, take your questions and hear from you. So our online programs, we wanted to give you some overview here. So as you're thinking about like who Everfi is, we are truly your partners in whole child learning. And so we look at wellness from a bunch of different perspectives, and I'll show you that on the next slide here in a second. But what you can see here are sort of our 3 pillars. We start with engaging digital lessons, lessons that are interactive, lessons that really push students' learning and giving them customized feedback. So that's one pillar. The second pillar is assessments and reporting. So students are actually going to take pre and post assessments with each module, and they're going to get feedback on how they perform, and you're going to get that automatically graded in your Everfi gradebook. So you can tell what the learning gains are for each module. And then finally, the local support piece, and that's us, all of us in the orange Everfi hats. We're here to make this implementation of these resources seamless and easy so that if you have any questions about curriculum, if you have any technical issues as your students are getting rolling with the programs, that we're here to help be your thought partner and help be your tech support. So really lean on us during this process. And of course, we're always free, and that's like the best news I get to deliver. It's actually one of the things that is actually the hardest part of Noah's, Jim's, and my job is to convince you that our programs are free, and they are paid for. They're high quality resources, but they're supported by local organizations, and we'll kind of show you those here in a second, the local and national orgs. So definitely wanted to give you those kind of overview there. So I had mentioned kind of we're all about whole child learning. And so you can kind of see the different tiles here that correspond to those, the whole child learning resources we have. So everything from emotional to physical, intellectual, spiritual, environmental, financial, occupational, social. These are all what we call the 8 dimensions of wellness. And these are the things that we all care about for our students, right? We all want to see them succeed in these areas, not just in school in their K-12 experience, but also beyond, the tools that will really lead to their flourishing. And so underneath all of those buckets, you'll see the different programs we have corresponded here. Don't worry about writing all of this down. I know it's a lot of information. We're going to send you this deck, a link to it at the end, so that you can grab these at any point, especially if you're looking at one of these, tiles as being something that you're going after this year in your curriculum. So moving on to the next slide, we always like to kind of frame this as, how has Everfi been used kind of big picture across the state in the last year. You're going to see that we've had, several schools using the programs, over 900, almost close to 1,000 schools participate, over 100,000 students take one or more of the programs, and over 2,000 teachers implement, which is just really exciting. And we look forward to seeing that grow over time as teachers are finding these resources to be just a really nice value add to supplement their curriculum. And during COVID, which we know was such an, of course, unprecedented time, we're always going to remember this in like the diaries of our lives this year. And we saw that these resources were still super helpful because they were online. So as long as students had access to a device and an internet connection, they were able to continue their learning with Everfi, which is wonderful. And that is why we're so glad to be able to offer you a consistent solution, no matter if you're in the classroom working with your students as usual, or you're in any kind of hybrid or remote learning environment. Everfi can be a solution for your classroom. And just like I had mentioned, the best news we always get to share is that these resources are no cost. And we mean that. We don't mean it's just like a trial run for 1 year. Like these are resources you can count on. And this is part of our mission. So you see the logos over on the right-hand side. So just wonderful partners locally, the Chicago Bears, Chicago Blackhawks, as well as Fifth Third Bank and TCF. So just some wonderful partners that provide this funding. And, this includes, again, the online resources. This includes any of the offline lessons that we're going to dig into, as well as just Jim, Noah, and I, like being able to help you figure out where to place this in your class and that kind of individualized local support.
I wanted to jump in with one quick thing there, Rachel. Because of all of our sponsorship partners, obviously some of this stuff is a little up in the air right now. We usually have some really cool sort of like bonus opportunities and events and scholarships and stuff like that. Depending on which sponsorships are in your specific area, you will still have the scholarship contests for sure. But it's almost like we've talked a lot about silver linings during school closures. And some of you might know us, especially people in the Chicago area, for the enormous Blackhawks STEM Day event that we do every year. I know that's where a lot of people like first learn about Everfi. And obviously we cannot do that event this year because it's not safe. But one of the silver linings is we're working on figuring out some more virtual events that will probably be extended to like, more areas of the state, which is awesome. So just keep an eye out for communication from us like later this year. I'm being totally transparent that some of these things are still being planned because it's hard to figure out how to do a fully virtual event that's still engaging for students. But especially with like our sports team sponsors, we're going to have opportunities for like maybe like classroom video chats with athletes and alumni of those teams, maybe some like career day virtual visits from some of our financial education partners, things like that. So just keep an eye out. After today's session, we'll be following up with information for those events, hopefully very soon.
Awesome. Yeah, I just saw Lisa chatted in that there was a great Bears event at her school, which is awesome. Yeah, so thanks so much, Jim, for that update as well. We'll keep you in the loop. And then finally, just, really showing you all the curriculum we have. So thinking again back to those 8 pillars of wellness or 8 dimensions of wellness, we kind of have those bucketed across the top. So everything from financial education all the way over to cultural literacy. Again, you're going to get a copy of this deck, but if you just want to kind of look and skim at the different resources, it starts, of course, in our elementary offerings and goes down to our high school offerings. So there truly is something for everyone here. And as I mentioned, we're going to have several new programs releasing in the fall, and we'll get to kind of conclude the presentation with that. So definitely stay tuned for that. So that is Everfi in a nutshell, and I'll hand it over to Jim to dive into the course demo.
Let me just reconfigure my screens here real quick. Everyone's favorite part of teaching and presenting remotely. Yeah, so I'm going to do a quick, just want to, whenever you are seeing a new tool like this, we can show you all the slides, but we want you to actually see the same experience that your students will see whenever they're actually using one of our courses. And because this is such a big group and we have people from all grade levels, we decided to kind of split the difference. And I'm going to be highlighting a middle school course called Future Smart. And let me just finish sharing here. I'm not smart enough to do 2 things at once. There we go. So like I was saying, we just wanted you to see a preview of one of our courses. This might not be your grade level or your subject area that you're really focused on, but the good thing to keep in mind is that all of our courses kind of function in a very similar way. They're all pretty gamified and interactive like this. One principle that we try to follow at Everfi, especially if you've maybe not seen an Everfi course in a few years, we know that the reality is that we have a lot of new people thanks to remote learning right now. And this is a good time to check back in with us because a lot of our courses have either been updated over the past couple years or we have just brand new experiences for teachers and students. But I mentioned that just because we try to stay away from having courses that just kind of play a video for your students where they have to sit there and just passively consume the content. We want them to be very interactive. And I think Future Smart is a really good example of that. So this course is our middle school financial education program. And it's always kind of been one of my favorites, maybe because I primarily taught middle school, but also because of its focus on civic engagement in addition to financial literacy. So the theme behind this course is basically that students get to role play as the mayor of a fictional town. So you can see here on this sort of welcome screen, the first lesson is literally just called Welcome Mayor, because that's when they kind of, and when I say gamified, that's like a very trendy word that gets thrown around. Just basically means that this is going to have interactive game-like elements throughout the program. So they're actually going to accept this mission of becoming the mayor. And it's really cool because they get to actually customize some of the content. So right whenever they sort of take on this responsibility, they have to do a survey that, and this is where you can see how interactive it is. This course really tries to kind of tap into what students already know about finances and just kind of really trying to show them that even if they don't think about money all the time, they probably already have some preferences and skills related to how they're managing their money right now and how they're thinking about doing it in the future. and so like if you're a student, you know, has thought a lot about where to go to college and what job I want, like maybe you really think about that all the time, click I agree. And then just so you know, one thing that you're missing out on, all the basically all the text on the screen in our courses is read aloud to students. So if you are in a face-to-face classroom, headphones are definitely recommended. I'm like basically just talking over the voiceover right now in my own head, but basically after they go through this survey, they're going to get a quick little profile of like what type of financial archetype they are, like what type of personality they have. Just like I said, to kind of show them that, look, you might only be in 7th grade, maybe you don't have a job yet, you're not involved in the family financial planning, but you probably already do have some like ideas about money and how it works in your life. This is kind of like making this more concrete for them. So after they go through that personality survey, this is where they actually have to sign the mayoral contract. So I'm going to sign up as Mayor Jim. This is a moment where students actually get to name the town. As a former middle school teacher, I always tell my students to make sure that they name it something appropriate. You know, I've seen some very creative names come up in naming the town here, but this is really fun for them. I'm just going to call it Townville because that's what it's called in the Future Smart program. This is also another part that students really love. They get to actually pick their avatar, so the character that they're going to play as for the rest of the course. Another thing you might notice at Everfi, especially recently, this is something we got a lot of feedback on in the past. We try to just make sure that our avatars in all of our courses, all the different characters that people are interacting with, are very diverse in a variety of ways. So students get to really, you know, pick whoever they most identify with, or just a fun character that they'd like to use in the Future Smart lessons. And I want to show you a couple more examples of the interactive activities here. So one thing that Future Smart tries to do is really connect like what students are already good at and show them how that is going to be a useful skill whenever they're planning for their future, whether that involves money, whether that involves choosing electives in middle school and high school, choosing an after high school higher education plan, or going into the workforce. So you might hear a student say like, I love to learn new things, but they might not really think of that as like a job preference or a job skill. And I'll actually see if I get this one correct, and you'll see if it gives, how it gives live feedback. So we would say that loving to learn new things is a desirable characteristic, right? They might already kind of think that about themselves, but I like to think of this as the resume writing workshop, like the pre-resume writing workshop that students are doing here. So as they're choosing these, it's like liking to help others is a great characteristic or trait to have, but it's also something that like a potential employer or a college or even like, you know, the leader of an after school program might see in you, and something that you can use to your advantage to like start building up your own confidence and resume in life. Let's see. I'd like to help others falls under job preferences, and we'll see how that comes into play with some of these upcoming activities. So for example, after you fill out that little survey, you get to actually see some real world careers. And this is a really cool aspect of a lot of different Everfi courses, not just Future Smart. A lot of our middle and high school courses try to highlight like real world data around careers so that students can just start, like I know whenever I was in middle school, I probably couldn't tell you what an average salary of, you know, like in this case, a nurse practitioner was. I really didn't know what adults were earning at their jobs and what that meant for like the type of lifestyle you're going to have. So this program's trying to like break that down and show them what choices they can make in life to kind of start building out a budget and a plan for themselves in the future. So this one's going to ask the students, you know, you said that one of your interests is wanting to work in a health field. So, oh, I forgot to mention, in this lesson, you're actually helping a student named Sydney go through like the school counselor process. So in this actual activity, we're really helping Sydney here make these decisions. So we know that she wants to work in a health field. So I'm going to check off nurse practitioner, dentist, fitness instructor, and an occupational therapy assistant. And maybe I'll just get one of these wrong to show you what it looks like. So I'll click graphic designer, because that's not a health field. So you'll see it gives them real-time feedback if they make an incorrect selection here. But I like these, they're almost like little digital flashcards that show students the job title, making it real, like what does a nurse practitioner do? They'll learn a little bit about that later. But it shows you like the actual education level that you usually need for entering that field. And that's also important because they're going to learn like the actual cost of college later on in this course. And so it's not just this abstract idea of, oh, I'm going to get a master's degree, but I don't really know what that means or how long it's going to take or how much it's going to cost. So we try to, break that down and show them like it's going to take X number of years. Usually costs about this much, but here's also what your average earnings will be with that education level. So it's starting to like ease them into this world of how these decisions they're making right now in school are going to have an impact on their career choices moving forward. So up next, we're going to help Sydney continue through this guidance process. And this, she gets to go through an actual to-do list that a high school student might have. So we're going to actually have to go in and meet with the counselor and figure out how to design our schedule for the year. And then I'm not going to be able to show all of this, but we also get to see like that they're going to visit the college information center, learn about scholarships. So it's like some pretty cool, almost like database searching practice that they get to do. And since this is a financial literacy course, it's always connecting those decisions to like what your earnings will be and what type of expenses you might have going down that pathway. So in this part, this is what I was saying about building the schedule. So these are the courses that high school students have to take, right? So sometimes students are just like, this is just kind of a passive thing. They're going to send me into some classes. I'll show up. I'll try my best. This is kind of getting them to think about one piece of feedback that we got from students and teachers over the years is that since we kind of brand ourselves as a life skills company, they really need help with just like general planning and time management skills. And this is a great thing to start practicing in middle school. So it'll start prompting them with things like, you know what, if you have a really hard class, like maybe AP biology or honors biology, and you know that you're sharpest in the morning, maybe you want to put that at the top of your schedule, right? So this is actually interactive where it's going to let the students build out this schedule. So you can see here, it says, think about when your classes are being taken. Sydney knows that she is most focused in the morning, and this might be the time for math class since it requires the most concentration. And then in this next section, you basically get to do a virtual simulation of visiting like a college and career readiness center at your school. So this is where they get to consider more of these big life questions that maybe this is the first time they're really thinking of these. Like if you're going to college, do you want to be very close to home, like 5 miles away? Or are you really trying to experience something new and maybe get away from the place you grew up in, And it's going to also show them like then you have to plan for these types of costs if you make that decision, right? Like in and out of state tuition, things like that. And then the next part of this is where they actually have to explore the college scholarship database. I won't go through this whole activity, but just wanted to show you what it looks like. I know we have some counselors and probably some CTE people in the session today from the chat. This is almost like if you're a high school counselor, this is a great thing for those middle school students who have gone through in the years previously, because then they can kind of just be prepared for that experience with you, and it's not going to be entirely new to them. So it's still doing this sort of role-playing activity through Sydney, and as we all know, there are a lot of very interesting and unique scholarship opportunities out there, like people who are left-handed, things like that. So we get to actually like watch this search in the database and see what it turns out for her. So it's just going to show them some examples of like what real scholarship contests look like. That's something that me, Noah, and Rachel do all the time, is go into classrooms and lead scholarship days. And a lot of students are very disappointed to learn that they have to write a 300-word essay. I hate breaking that news to them, But I also see it as sort of a growing moment or a learning moment that if you want the money, you have to usually put in some sort of effort like that. This is kind of like it's kind of demystifying the higher education financing process for middle school students, showing them like some real world examples of types of scholarships that are out there that they can actually start pursuing. And the earlier, the better. This is an important thing to see just real quick here. So at the end of every module, there's a built-in post-assessment. And this is the one that's going to show up in your gradebook as a teacher. You can view their pre-assessment scores as well, but it defaults to just showing you the post-assessment scores. And we're going to show you what that actually looks like in just a little bit. But all of these questions as a teacher, you'll have access to the full answer keys and all the assessment questions if you want them for your own records. But one of the best things, since we're talking remote learning today, is that these are all automatically graded. So you'll be able to just see their scores show up in real time on your teacher dashboard. Our system requires students to get a 70% or higher on each assessment of a course. So like in Future Smart, there's 7 lessons. So they actually have to get that 70% on each one, and then they'll get the certificate for the course. So that's all I was going to show for Future Smart today, just for time's sake. I know we have a lot more to get through. I'm going to go back to the slideshow here.
Jim, I think I can actually start sharing from here.
Oh yeah, okay. Good call.
Yeah, let me, do we see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, now that you've seen a kind of an example of a course, one piece of kind of feedback, or I guess advice I got from one of you, from one of the teachers who we sent invites to, was that you're looking to really be able to leave this webinar and feel comfortable with the actual implementation plan for the beginning of school. I know that Chicago Public Schools, with the exception of Chicago Public Schools, most of you probably are in your first week right now, or maybe second week. I know it varies across Illinois, but we wanted to give you kind of like a 2-week implementation plan for the beginning of school this year. So that's what I'm going to focus on for the next, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. So what we've done today, and this is obviously a little bit different for remote learning, because if you're in the classroom, you can kind of maybe space things out a little bit more, or obviously you can have a bit more interaction with students. But we wanted to offer for elementary school, middle school, and high school just kind of recommended course bundles. And if you want to right now, either Rachel or Jim, would you guys mind just chatting into the chat everfi.net? Or maybe you already did. Sorry, I can't see the chat anymore. But yeah, so Rachel or Jim is going to chat in everfi.net, which is our platform page where you can either log into your Everfi account if you have one, or get started and register with Everfi. I'll take you through how to do that in a second, but now would be the time to kind of get set up. It takes 30 seconds to a minute, and then we can go through that part together. So to start off with the elementary school bundles, and I'm using K through 5 as elementary here. I know some elementary schools are K through 8, but just talking K through 5 on this slide. We'll split it up into an SEL/health bundle and then an early learning bundle. So with the SEL and health bundle, you've got the Compassion Project, Vault Understanding Money, and Healthier Me Elementary School. So you kind of get the sense from the titles of these, but a little more on each. The Compassion Project is really a sort of classic blended learning model where you've got 3 digital lessons that Everfi, kind of similar to what Jim went through with pre and post tests built in. you're monitoring student progress on the digital aspect. Then you've got 15 offline lessons in the Compassion Project. So that's kind of great for your face-to-face Google Meet or Zoom classes, or if you are back to school, in the classroom, not in front of the Chromebook. Vault Understanding Money, the Compassion Project, the 3 digital lessons are going over compassion, empathy, and mindfulness, with a built-in game in each digital lesson, which the one that I like to talk about the most is the mindfulness lesson, where you've got kids actually practicing deep breathing techniques as they go through this kind of snake-like maze of a school day, and they're running into different stressors throughout the school day, and then they have to press this button and actually practice deep breathing techniques along with their with the characters on the screen. Vault Understanding Money is a 6-lesson course that we actually just updated. Maybe it's 5 lessons now, 5 or 6 lessons around sort of tying in SEL concepts to financial decision making and getting 4th and 5th grade students to really think about the decisions they make now and how that affects their financial futures, and just planting some ideas like income, savings, investing, and how I can start thinking about saving money for the future. Healthier Me is really a short couple of lessons. One around healthy eating, where this is aligned to 1st to 4th grade, but kids are dragging and dropping foods onto a breakfast, lunch, or dinner plate, and kind of filling up a fullness meter, but also maintaining, a healthy diet. And then the other lesson is focused on healthy fitness habits. Early Learning Bundle on the other side. I'm seeing that chat from Misty. I agree. And it also, I know that Illinois requires some health lessons at all grade levels. So Healthier Me is a great couple of digital lessons to talk about healthy eating and fitness. Early Learning is more kind of aligned to core curriculum, where you've got WordForce, a pretty extensive program that we just came out with recently that has students helping their kind of Space Force with phonemic awareness and kind of reading comprehension. So that's really aligned to reading standards, ELA standards. You've got Summer Slugger, which is, you might guess, it's a MLB sponsored program where students are playing math and reading baseball games and helping complete these games through not kind of typical Everfi, more so just checks for understanding and playing games around math and reading. Finally, Hockey Scholar, or Future Goals, is divided into a math and science version where you've got 6 math and 6 science lessons where students are learning STEM concepts through the game of hockey. So maybe passing the puck off the boards to complete a pass and learning about the angle of the puck as it ricochets off the boards, or a science lesson. You've got potential versus kinetic energy of the hockey puck as it falls to the ice for a face-off. So that's kind of a real world application of STEM course, which in the entire state of Illinois is funded by the Blackhawks. So pretty exciting for kids as well. Middle school bundles. I'll be a little more brief with these so we can dive into the live demo. But middle school bundle, again, you've got the SEL health bundle and the financial education and STEM career readiness bundle. Character playbook, mental wellness basics, ignition, and honor code are all Everfi programs within the 6th to 8th grade band that are going to work on, character education, leadership skills, Ignition is more focused on digital literacy, and then mental wellness basics, I think, is maybe the best fit course for right now in terms of students learning helpful coping strategies as they deal with anxiety or feelings of depression. On the right-hand side, you've got financial education and STEM bundle, Future Smart, which Jim just went through, venture and entrepreneurship course where students make their own food truck and design it and go through the business cycle and learn about kind of marketing and business development. And then you've got Endeavor, which is really focused on STEM career exploration. Okay, high school is pretty, I guess you could say we're a bit heavy on high school. The SEL and health bundle we've got here is 5 courses. Something to note, you know, as Jim kind of talked about in his demo, each of these courses is really supplemental. So the SEL courses in particular and health courses are very supplemental. Like, for example, Honor Code's 5 lessons really only take about 15 minutes per lesson. But as you can see, we've got 2 high school aligned prevention education courses in prescription drug safety and alcohol EDU. Sorry, just take some water here. Looks like somebody hacked my account or something and is asking questions from Noah Doppel. Mental wellness is the same course. That's a great question from Noah Doppel. But it's the same course from a middle school and a high school standpoint. We recommend it really in that 8th to 10th grade range. On the financial literacy side, we've got 3 courses now related to financial education for high school, and a 4th and 5th course coming out that Rachel will go over in a few minutes. But it's a pretty extensive, I saw a question earlier about, you know, the high school financial literacy requirement. We will have 5 courses by the time November hits. That is a pretty great kind of bundle of financial literacy courses at the high school level. You've got Everfi Financial Literacy, our sort of tried and true course that goes into savings, budgeting, financing higher education. You've got the MarketWorks course, which goes into investing basics and kind of the global economy. You've got Venture, which I talked about at the middle school level as well. And then the Keys to Your Future course is more so about soft skill development and kind of working on resume building, networking, and taking high school students through kind of from day 1 of high school to retirement. What kind of softer skills are important for me to work on and think about, and then combining some action plans in that as well. Okay, so that was a lot of information, a lot of talk about courses. I'm going to dive into the actual teacher dashboard so that you can see what it looks like from the teacher side. But just want you to know, and thank you, Rachel just actually chatted into the chat box. If you want to pull that up, that's just a 3-slide deck of elementary, middle, and high school bundles so that you can match up. If you're a 4th grade teacher, look at the elementary. If you're, you know, a high school teacher, look at the high school bundle. But those are just recommendations of bundles for what's next. Okay, so I am actually gonna jump into the demo here. Let me pull this over. So the first thing you're gonna do, I'm gonna type this into the chat again. Everfi.net is the website that is worth bookmarking on your end, as well as your students. That's where you and students are going to log in to the Everfi dashboard. When you do log into the Everfi dashboard, you all should see something that looks like this, right? You've got In the top left, home, catalog, and support, you've got your name in the upper right. You've got 4 tiles in the middle, courses, classes, students, and reports. And then here, I'm gonna say the word dashboard a lot. Dashboard and home screen, I kind of mean the same thing. Your dashboard has every course that you've added to your kind of list of courses that you can use. So as you can see, my kind of demo teacher has a number of courses on the dashboard. It'll make you choose a course at the beginning. You can just pick one, and then after that, you can always go to add course here to choose another. So let's say you're a high school teacher and you want to do the financial literacy bundle or the SEL bundle. To add another course to your dashboard, go to this catalog, and then you can click add under the course that you want to add to your account. You can see courses are bundled by topic area, or you can just go to the bottom where all of them are available. Love that question, Fred. The catch is that all of these companies are paying for the program. So that's not really a catch. It just means that you never have to pay for it, and that TCF Bank and Fifth Third Bank and the Chicago Bears are funding the education of your students. Okay, so once you have your bundle on your dashboard, meaning you've added all the courses that you potentially want to use this year and introduce your students to, creating a class is pretty simple. You can just click that create class button or do it from the classes tab here. I'm going to click the create class button, and you can kind of think of this as creating one class code per group of students that you see. So if you're teaching 5 class periods this semester, break it up into 5 class codes, and I'll show you why in just a second. So for this purpose, I'll do Lasky, because Dale Lasky from Maine East is my guy. Lasky period 4. You're going to select your start date, class size between 15 and 45, your grade level. You can select multiple. And then here's where you can kind of bundle those courses, right? Before clicking create up here in the upper right, click the add courses button. So again, if I'm going for that high school level SEL bundle, I'm going to check the boxes next to honor code, keys to your future, mental wellness basics, and let's say Everfi. By clicking add and then create, this class code, when you give it to students, is actually going to have them be able to access all 4 of those courses in one. So you can see within this classes tab, your registration codes are always going to live here. You don't have to write them down. You can always retrieve them from here. And that's what you're going to, give your students on day 1 so that they can register for this Lasky period 4 class. Once students are in, from that point, it's very simple. They can just kind of click get started. And you can also see from the students tab, you can see their login information. So you can see the username that they created, as well as reset their password, because kids will forget their passwords. This right here is our friend Ross Geller from Friends. So if there's any Friends fans here, shout out to you all. But Ross Geller has access to FutureSmart currently, right? So Jim mentioned the reporting section. This is where you're going to be able to track Ross's and the rest of your students' progress throughout the course. So we can see here, you might remember from Jim's presentation, the first module of FutureSmart that has a pre and post test is called Smart Shopping. And Ross scored a 30% on the post test. This data is available in real time. So as soon as he finishes the post test, it's going to show up here. And you can also click view into Ross and see his pre-test and his post test, so you can measure growth there. So you can think of the reporting section kind of as your grade book. I'm seeing we've got a couple questions. If you add multiple courses to one section, can you turn the lessons on and off? That's a great question. The answer is no. So what you would have to do is kind of communicate to your students which lessons you want them to do. And then from this reporting section, you can see if they're doing the right course or not, right? You can see if they're doing the smart shopping lesson when you assign the smart shopping lesson. That's a good question. Can we incorporate an SEL link into Google Slides? Not sure. I might need a little explanation about that question, Sarah. Can I give a single lesson without giving the whole course? Yes. So Fred, the answer to that is yes. For most courses, the lessons are unlocked, meaning you can do them in any order. And by no means do you have to finish the whole course. It's really kind of nice, and you can plug and play which lessons you want your students to access. But the nice thing kind of incentive wise is this certified column over here. We do offer certification for every program that we have. So let's say you finished the entire Future Smart course and got a 70% on all the lessons. You could go to your students tab as the teacher and then actually print a certificate out or download a certificate PDF and send it to that student. So it's pretty cool and a nice incentive, but again, you don't have to assign the entire course if you don't want to. Tiffany Schmidt must have come in late because there's never, ever, ever going to be any cost to you or your school or district. And that's thanks to our sponsors. That's an awesome question from Azra. I'm gonna go back to the home screen, and something else that's great that I think either Jim or Rachel mentioned before was, in addition to these online lessons, these digital lessons that you can track in real time, you've got an offline resource section for every single course. So let's look at the kind of extensive Everfi financial literacy lessons. All of these lesson plans here are going to be offline. So if you look into banking basics, this is a PDF that's a fully drawn up lesson for you as the teacher to extend the material from the online lesson and go offline with it. So again, this is, you can see this is 45 minutes. Offline lessons are usually 45 minutes to an hour. But again, that doesn't have the pre and post test data. That's something that you're working on with students in a Zoom class or in the classroom. Okay. So again, that's kind of everything you need to know. Oh, sorry. One more thing. From your teacher dashboard, you can actually view from the student side each course. So kind of the student side that Jim was taking us all through before, you click that view course button and that'll take you into whichever course you want to see. Yeah, sure, Colleen. So for offline lessons, you're gonna, from your dashboard, click the resource section, and they'll usually be labeled lesson plan. So any of the lessons in the resource section are gonna be offline. If we look at mental wellness basics, it's just one, I think this is 75-page document of offline lessons related to mental health and mental wellness. Okay, other resources you can access from here are standards alignment, course outlines, and curriculum guides. So for planning purposes, you can access any of these, which will open up PDF documents. All right, I realize that was a pretty quick tutorial all in all, but as you get started and as you click around, you'll see kind of how easy it is to navigate and how easy it is for students to sign up. It's really as simple as creating your codes or your bundles, giving those to students within your Google Classroom or however you communicate with your students. And then from there, they can sign up and gain access to all of this material. Okay. So I'm going to pivot over to the student side, right? You're probably wondering what it looks like from a student side. This is a screenshot of a student dashboard. So this student, for example, has access to 4 different Everfi courses: 306, Alcohol EDU, Keys to Your Future, the Compassion Project. If you ever want to loop in another course in the middle of the school year, you're just going to create a new code or loop a new course into your existing code. And then students will be able to enter the new class code so they can access whatever course. So this is actually going to be important on the right-hand side on this slide. I know this is kind of a text-heavy slide, but there are 3 ways that students can access Everfi. One is just kind of that typical creating a class code, give it to students, they sign up on their own. We also allow you, if you're, working with the younger kiddos and you don't want to have them create their own username and password, you can upload a student roster from your Everfi account and just create them for them. Again, a lot of younger teachers of younger students will do it that way. The third way is we're actually working a lot with districts that use Clever as their single sign-on platform. So if you're listening to this and you have no idea what I'm talking about with Clever, that probably means your district doesn't use it. But if you do use it, we can pretty seamlessly integrate with your Clever platform, which just means that with one click, students don't need to create a username and password. They can just log in with their Clever sign-on, and then they will see whichever classes that you've assigned to them if they just click the Everfi icon. Pop in a class and do one of these lessons without setting up the class code. So Fred, you're gonna have to set up the class code, and at least if you're doing the digital lesson, you're gonna have to create a class code and then get your students access to the lessons at some point. You can kind of preload that work. If you want to do option number 2 and create the accounts for them, you can just, at the very beginning say, I've created an account for all of you. But yeah, you will have to create the class code first. John, I really hope so, because that is something that we are talking to our kind of engineering department about. How great it would be to be able to link up with Google Classroom and roster that way. So I think that is in the works. And then Tiffany, can I be the teacher and student and do lessons one-on-one with students? Yeah, totally. So I see that oftentimes with in-school suspension, honestly, where students are working one-on-one with the in-school suspension coordinator, and you just give that one student the class code and have them work through, character playbook, communicating effectively if you want to.
I just wanted to also jump in. We have another question from you, Noah, about mental wellness basics, which I think we said this earlier, maybe it was in the chat. I know there's a lot of stuff flying around, so it's hard to keep track, but those grade level recommendations are really just based on like national standards alignment and things like reading level, things like that. I would say that especially for a lot of the SEL programs, they are incredibly flexible. And what we always recommend is trying to like maybe pilot it with a grade level. If you're not 100% certain that it's a good fit, like if you're on the cusp, like I know there's discussion about Future Smart being used in a freshman class, even though it's recommended for middle school. We work with so many different schools and districts that we've seen so many examples of them fitting in a different grade level than what's kind of nationally recommended. So I say that you take every grade level recommendation with a grain of salt and just really try it out with your own students. The other thing that I know this just came up, I actually might have misunderstood the question a little bit, but if you want to, like, you know your students better than we do. So if you want to do the demo of the course, like see exactly what a student sees, click that view course button and maybe just do like the first lesson of a specific course to kind of figure out where it's going to live, especially if you work across grade levels and you're trying to figure out, like, do some planning and make sure that there's no, repetition if you're going to use these courses over multiple years. It does kind of work as a best practice to make it live in a specific grade level. And I would say, like, try some of the lessons yourself and see, based on your judgment, if you think it would actually be a good fit for that grade level. And yeah, I think pretty much every course we have is aligned to Common Core state standards. And then we also have, if anyone here is looking for like Illinois specific standards alignment guides, we have those available as well. And sorry, I jumped in because I saw these questions piling up, Noah.
Yeah, you're good. Great questions, everybody.
Oh, I saw someone talking about uploading rosters. And like, just to clarify, that's something you can do, especially, let's say you're like a second grade teacher and maybe your students are a bit young, especially if they're all at home working independently. Maybe they're a little bit young and not great with technology and you don't really want them to just set up their own account. You can upload a roster in that context. Or maybe you're a school counselor who works with 500 students and you want them all to have an account and you just want to do it all at once. You can upload a CSV file. But you also don't have to upload a roster. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Most teachers that use our platform, especially in middle and high school, I think it's because students are just so used to this process nowadays. You just give them the code. Whenever they register, they punch in the code and they set up their own account. So, and then the other cool thing is you as the teacher, you can always go back in and reset their password. One of the unglamorous realities of remote learning is that a lot of students forget their passwords. And so basically you can just reset it for them.
So Amy, that's a great question. And unfortunately, you can't necessarily delete a course once you've already created a class code. Your school's manager, Rachel, Jim, or I can do that. So if you want, you can either hide that class and create a new one, or you can just shoot one of us an email, whoever your local contact is, and just tell us which course you want deleted from that class, and we can do it for you. Okay, so again, just to close the loop on Clever, if you are a Clever district and a Clever user and you would like Everfi on your Clever dashboard, again, just email your local schools manager and we'll get that process started with your district IT person. Okay, so a little perk here from Everfi, just to end out the teacher dashboard. You might have noticed that invite a teacher button in the upper right-hand corner of your dashboard. I know some folks on here on this call right now have taken advantage of this button, and it's pretty great that you basically click that and fill out the form. It sends an invite to Everfi out to whoever you want by email, and then you can recommend certain courses to them. It gives them login instructions. And then as soon as they get started with Everfi, you get sent a $15 Amazon gift card. So this is no joke. And Fred, again, no catch. But yeah, might as well get a $15 Amazon gift card if you want to refer somebody at your school to Everfi. Yeah, literally, like, I think we sent one teacher over $600. I like telling that story because she was able to buy like a smart board or something for her classroom. So definitely, again, if you want to refer someone, don't just tell them word of mouth, use that invited teacher button. Okay, I do want to plug one more thing before we get into remote learning best practices. We're going to chat this in at the end. But the first slide, when we send out this deck, if this entire webinar went in one ear and out the other, we actually made an Illinois specific one-stop shop. So it's going to be, again, on this first slide of the deck when we send it out. That's going to have a ton of information that is helpful for you to get started. It's got quick start guides for you and your kids, videos, course outlines, as well as our contact information. So again, if you forget everything you learned in this hour and a half, which I know I do sometimes when I'm on webinars, this is a great document for you to bookmark and refer back to. Okay, I'm gonna toss it to Rachel or I think Rachel.
Yeah, so I know like this conversation would not be complete without giving you some tips and tricks for remote learning, and that starts with your district's LMS. So we would love to hear from you. What LMS is your district using? So if you want to chat that in, LMS stands for Learning Management System. So things like that, like you've already mentioned, Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, Clever. Feel free to give that a quick chat in. We'd love to get a pulse. Yeah, Google Classroom, so popular, which would be a great piece of feedback we can send to our team on integrating with Google Classroom. We hear you loud and clear, but I did see some Canvas. Cool, Seesaw. Yeah, Seesaw is one. Definitely. Schoology, yeah. Yep, exactly. So we understand that there is, you know, every district's sort of in a different spot. So we want to be able to support you no matter which one you're using, because we understand that it's one thing to go and create your class and kind of get all set up on the Everfi platform, and it's a whole nother thing on how do you communicate this to your students if you can't, you know, see them in person, right? We know that can be a hurdle. And so no matter what classroom or learning management system you're using, we're going to give you some tips and tricks on how to integrate that with Everfi, no matter if it's integrated directly or if we have some workarounds for you. Yeah, and so before I do that, I think Sarah said, oh, thank you, Noah. Yeah, upper right-hand corner, I know we spent quite a bit of time on the teacher referral. Please go and refer all the teachers on this call. You have plenty of time to do that. Anyone that you know in your district or outside of your district, invite a teacher button on your dashboard. So I know that we already kind of pointed out the Clever piece. If you're thinking, oh yeah, you know, I think we might use Clever, we may use it for maybe other grades, we definitely can still sync with your school for Clever integration. I was just working with a district in Iowa right before our webinar here, and it was like seamless with the Clever integration. So we got them set up, and it was just a couple clicks and boom. So in terms of if you know, you're looking for an LMS where students are not having to remember another username and password, because we know resetting that is, you know, it can be a hurdle, this is an option. So let us know. There's going to be, you know, again, on the feedback form, you can include that if you're interested in getting that integrated. It doesn't take long. We can usually do it in like less than 3 days. And this is basically what it would look like on your Clever app. We know that not all schools use Clever, but if you do and you're interested, just let us know and we can connect with your IT department on that process. And then I just kind of wanted to highlight a couple of other best practices if you're using any other type of LMS. And I'm just going to highlight Google Classroom because I had a hunch that maybe a lot of you use that. And so you're going to see that we kind of have 4 things to kind of consider when you're kind of creating your virtual classroom with Everfi. So think about your Everfi programs as assignments. So when you're going in and posting assignments on Google Classroom, you can either post each Everfi program or each Everfi module as an assignment, and you can assign both the online modules as well as those offline lessons that I know Jim and Noah kind of had mentioned as well. You don't have to use the offline lessons, but you know, they're definitely there for you and can be beneficial to students. The second piece would be just to upload the resources that students would need to get started on the online modules. So for example, we're going to send you, or you're going to see linked in here when we send you the presentation, that we have a PDF version of our student registration guide, and we have a YouTube version given by Jim. So yeah, he can definitely guide your students in less than a minute on how to set that up. I know YouTube is a really easy format for students, and they learn best that way a lot of the times. So you can upload those resources, and then just really setting expectations. So, some of our programs are longer than others. So like if you're using Everfi Financial Literacy, for example, that's a 3 to 4 hour course. Maybe you want to space it out and have students complete half the modules in 1 week and the other half the next week. So just being very clear when you post that assignment what is due when, and letting students know that you can tell when they've completed certain modules because you have that grade book that's available to you and updating in real time. And then lastly, we are trying to make this as easy as possible for you. So we have a video, for example, our Google Classroom and Everfi syncing video with our colleague Alyssa, who has put that together for you. And so you'll be able to go to this slide, click on that, and learn some more tips and tricks. So this is just one item that we have, but definitely let us know if you're having any other problems posting to, Canvas or Schoology or anything like that. And then I'm going to pass it over to Jim, to wrap us up.
Thanks, Rachel. So we just wanted to cover, and in addition to going over some new programs that we have coming out, we're definitely going to have some time for just questions at the end, even though this has been awesome so far because people have just been actually chatting the whole time. So thank you for the participation. I'm sure as people having to teach remotely, you know how important it is to know people are actually listening. So that helps a lot. But I wanted to just make sure that we covered, one of the, basically like the entire reason for our jobs existing is to support teachers and schools and administrators using Everfi resources. So even though we have, 90 minutes today where we're giving you sort of a crash course on everything, whenever you, I think Noah already pointed this out, but just to remind everyone, and I know we had some people jumping in late, whenever you log into your Everfi account, there is a support tab on the top left of the screen. If you click that support tab, you'll be able to see your local schools manager. So it'll be one of us 4 right here, including Stephanie, who's not here today, but she is an Illinois schools manager as well. I think she's just on vacation, enjoying the end of summer. So this is where, if you have any needs after today, this is just kind of an introduction to us. We gave you access to some resources. They're super easy to use. You might just be ready to hit the ground running with them. But if anything came up that maybe you didn't have a chance to ask today, I know we're already working on scheduling a training with Beth through the chat, which is awesome. So if you need a quick refresher training, just one-on-one, whether it's a phone call or a Google Hangout real quick, we're always available to do that. I know one thing that might happen, you're going to get hit with all the chaos of returning to school right at the beginning of the year. Maybe you don't have a need for this right now, starting in September or at the end of August, but maybe this is going to become a huge need in the spring, right? Maybe second semester, you're going to need more remote learning resources or just some SEL resources in your classroom at the end of the year. Feel free to reach out to us at any time this school year. We're always happy to jump on a call and just, refresh you on everything that we covered today. And if any of you are on a PLC or any other sort of planning or professional development committee at your school, and you want to invite us to a virtual session and train your colleagues, and yes, you can take advantage of that invite a teacher button promotion that we have going on right now. Feel free to invite them there, and then we can train them on a webinar. We're always available for that as well. I know we shared some of our Illinois impact data at the beginning of the call. If you're curious about the sort of usage data or assessment data from your school or district, let us know. We can always present that to you or your administrators as well. And I know that some people were thinking about what grade level should this live in. If you're involved in that sort of higher level bird's eye view planning at your school, we can really be, helpful in that process, finding where these resources can live and give you some sort of case studies of how other schools have used them in the past. And I was just talking with my manager earlier today. Sometimes we just help people with email tips. You need email instructions to send to your students. Please ask us for stuff like that. We have it ready to go. and we can definitely just send it over to you. Like we mentioned some of the Google Slides that we have, like we're going to share this deck, obviously, but I have teacher launch decks for almost every course as well, ready to go. So if you want to use those virtually or in the classroom, we can just share that with you through Google or send you the PowerPoint file. We pretty much have all the different versions you could need. So if you're looking for any of those supplemental materials, standards alignment guides, things like that, definitely reach out to us. As you can see, all of our emails are on the screen there. And then another thing that is has been kind of rough during school closures and hybrid models and things like that is we're not in the classroom anymore. Even school districts that are open are not really letting in like third-party people right now, but we usually spend a lot of our time on the road visiting schools, helping to launch these courses. We can play like virtual Jeopardy on financial information with your students, things like that. We're always available to do that virtually. It's a little bit of an experiment at this stage because it's new for everyone, including us. But if you are interested in having one of us visit your class virtually for the time being, please reach out to us about that. We'd be happy to do that. And then obviously whenever things are somewhat back to normal, we'll be able to visit in person. So that's preferred, but you know, we'll get there when we can. Yeah, so this is just the tentative timeline for some of our new courses that are coming out. Noah already covered the Vault relaunch, but I think one thing to highlight there is because if you've used Vault in the past, it does still align to all the same standards. We knew that that was really built into a lot of curriculum plans, not just in Illinois, but all over the country. So it does cover the same standards that it did before. But one thing that was really new about it, in addition to just like the look and feel, we all know the reality that tech products get out of date relatively quickly and that students can have very different standards from one year to another in terms of like what they find engaging. So it looks and feels more engaging. The animated characters are really fun. And it also does a better job of weaving in those SEL elements, which is, I know people were interested in SEL resources from looking at the chat. And as we all know, finances can be an incredibly huge source of stress in anyone's life. And it's kind of like setting the foundation for young learners that they need to take care of their mental health while they're taking care of their financial responsibilities, and that those two things are very interwoven. So yeah, that's one to check out, and it's already available now. You can preview it on your Everfi account. For the Diversity Foundations for High School, this is something that, you know, we also build adult learning products for like colleges and corporate compliance training and things like that. This has already existed in like the corporate world for a long time. I know when I worked at a university, I had to take a lot of like anti-bias trainings and things like that. But it was another one of those things that wasn't really trickling down into like the high school level. And we just wanted to make sure that this was available to high school students in Illinois as well. So it's really just covering issues like bias, identity, power and oppression, and teaching students how they can be an ally for their fellow citizens and their classmates. And then kind of going along with that theme, we also have a new course that focuses on anti-Semitism prevention. It's in partnership with the Anti-Defamation League. And it covers some of those same concepts of like allyship and how to sort of look out and recognize and just define anti-Semitic behavior and like patterns throughout history, things like that. And it also goes into just teaching students how they can be active in preventing anti-Semitic behavior if they see it or hear it around them. The next one coming up is our partnership with Beyond Meat, which is sustainability basics and plants and animals. And this course is really focusing on just the interconnected world of different systems, whether it's like human health, the environment, the shipping mechanisms we use to distribute products all over the globe, and what types of impacts those systems have on individuals, but also on the climate at large. So if you're looking to integrate anything on climate change and things like that, this is a great starting point. And these also, I just want a fair warning, these are our tentative release dates. If it's not out by October 30th, I apologize in advance, but it will be out soon. I promise the only reason that we do that sometimes is because we're going through final rounds of testing and we catch a bug here and there. So we want to make sure it's like polished and ready to go before it's officially released. But if you ever have questions about these, like if these are really, catching your attention, feel free to email us individually. Sometimes we have a quick update on when it'll be available. And if you're lucky that day, maybe you'll even get early access, but we'll probably be annoying and ask you to fill out a survey about it so we can get some feedback from you. So we'll keep you posted on all of those developments. And then getting into some of our new financial literacy courses. One coming out is called Money Moves. And this is basically just like an introduction to the world of online and digital banking. I often will start a classroom visit by asking students when was the last time they actually stepped foot into a bank. And I'm usually met with a lot of blank stares, or maybe they went once with their mom or dad or an aunt or uncle, but they don't really spend a lot of time actually going into the bank. And I personally don't really do that much anymore either, and even before COVID. So this is just kind of helping students with more of like, how do you avoid scams and fraud, and like what types of accounts are safe? What type of measures can you take to make sure that you're, when you're using like cash apps like Venmo and things like that, that you're actually using them responsibly and you understand like the fees involved and things like that. So this is a relatively short supplemental course that's a great pairing with some of our more in-depth financial literacy programs. And then another one that we have coming out this year is Financing Higher Education. This is really based on, over the years, we just noticed that our high school is sort of our flagship course, just called Everfi Financial Literacy. One of the most popular lessons over the years is the lesson on financing higher education. Almost, if you're working with high school students, even if it's not technically under your job description to teach them about financing higher education, sometimes it's just one of those life lessons that comes up in class, especially for school counselors. And this is really just a dedicated program that teaches students about how to navigate the world of paying for college. So it's very realistic. It shows them like the return on investment they can expect, and how all the little decisions they make about where they're going to school, the type of institution they're choosing, the length of the program, how much that's actually going to cost, and what options are out there in terms of loans, scholarships, and things like that. So it's very practical information. If you have students like filling out the FAFSA, this is a great program for them to go through during that time. And yeah, like I said, it pairs well with the other high school FinLit courses we have. And then finally, we have an anti-vaping course come out. I know when Noah and I were doing some trainings in Chicago at the beginning of last school year, this was one of the things that we just got requests for the most out of almost anything we talked about when it comes to prevention education. We've had programs on alcohol abuse and prescription drug safety, things like that. But it's really kind of remarkable how many people have asked us about a vaping course, because it's just something that is being seen in schools over and over again. So we're happy to announce that that'll be out towards the end of November. And it'll be a full course dedicated to just covering the dangers and realities of vaping. And we have a few minutes left here. I know we had some questions coming through, but if anyone has any additional questions before we officially wrap up, feel free to throw them in the chat. And like I said, if you remember something, like when you wake up tomorrow morning, we're always available for a phone call, video chat, or email, whatever's easiest. So feel free to reach out to us after today as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you, Rachel, by the way. Rachel just chatted in the survey. So again, if you do want to notify us about Clever integration, you want some Everfi swag, if you want to drop in a note about meeting with us, fill out that survey. It's super quick. You can even skip some of the fields if you want, but that's a good way to get in touch with us. Also, let's actually do it now. I'm chatting in the deck as well as the Illinois one-stop shop. Okay, so you're getting 3 Google Docs. You're all familiar with the G Suite, so you're getting a form, a doc, and a slide presentation right now. So again, Illinois One Stop Shop, great document to go back to for everything you need related to Everfi. The deck will be available on the LTC website, and then fill out that survey if you want a sweet Everfi mug or a pen, or if you just want to get in touch with us that way.
This was something that I kind of forgot we had that slide in there with social media. If you are active on social media, the main reason I want to point it out, obviously, we just like seeing any stories of people using our courses. It's great to see it since we're not able to visit schools anymore. But for your benefit, this is where a lot of times for example, this past summer, I don't know if anyone was there, because we couldn't attend many of the conferences that we normally do throughout the year all over the country. Everfi hosted our own online conference, and it was really fun. That's where you'll find out about stuff like that. Like, you'll probably get an email about it as well if you set up an account. But if you're more into following education updates on social media, definitely give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. We'll also, because it's really where we'll post like nationwide webinars as well. So we might have some more like specialized sessions coming up with teacher panelists. So I just wanted to point that out because I saw it come up there at the end.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we just got in under the wire here, so I think we'll end. I don't know if Brian's coming back on.
Back.
He is.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate Jim and Noah jumping back on again. And Rachel, it's great to add you this time. So thank you so much for being here. I really do want to stress that this whole session today was because of you, the participants. We've had a couple different Everfi sessions before, and some of the feedback we've gotten is they'd love to, participants would love to see a deeper dive. So if there's anything else that we can do to support you, whether it's with Everfi or with the LTC in general, anything technology-wise, please let us know. Again, as I mentioned before a few times, the webinar will be posted here this evening. You can watch the recording if you missed out on some of it, or if you want to share it with somebody else you think might benefit. We'll send out PD credit for those of you who joined us live tomorrow. We'll also have the slide deck on there as well. So again, thank you everyone for joining. And Rachel, Noah, Jim, again, thank you for taking the time today to go through all this stuff.
Thanks for helping us out, Brian. We really appreciate it.
All right, we'll see everyone later. Thanks for joining.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.